if you take one thing away, read this series, read Catherine Center's book, and read One Dark Window by Rachel Gilling. That's all. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Amy. Today, it's that time of the month again, guys. The monthly wrap up. This is literally the one consistent thing I do on my channel. You know how like a lot of people do like TBR, like, oh, choosing my TBR for the month? I could never do that because I'm such a mood reader, and sometimes I plan to read books, never read them. But yeah, I'm gonna show you some of my TBR that definitely most likely won't get read, but let's recap on all the books I read in July. So I read 11 books this month. Pretty low key. I just finished one today on the 31st, so that's whatever. But I read good books this month, I would say. I would count them as good. But the first book I read, House of Striking Oaths by Olivia Wilde. I gave this one 3 stars. It was the last of a trilogy by Olivia Wilde. I think it's like The Crow something. I'll put it on the screen. But it really just follows Fallon, our main girl. She's half of something, and I can't like really explain the book because it's the third of the book. It's like ending the series. So I could just say that I really didn't like it as much as I loved the first two. And for the first one, I gave it 4 stars, and the second one, I gave it 4.5 stars. So I really was like into the story, but I felt like the third one was just like, maybe it was the time gap of where I didn't read it, because I read the first 2 in March, and then I read this one when it came out. But yeah, it was just not as entertaining. I was bored. It was finally like getting to the central plot of the first book where like, oh my god, like the prophecy was told, and so they're like fulfilling this prophecy or something like that, and like actually ending the story of Fallon and Lore, which is her love interest, Lore. He's like the king of the crows. He's like the sky king basically. And in the sky like kingdom, the subjects can turn into crows, and so yeah, she's his mate. So that's all that happened. Didn't like it, 3 stars. Next book I read was One Dark Window by Rachel Gilling. I loved this book. I gave this one 5 stars. It literally, I don't know if you've watched it, but there's like a Cartoon Network like mini-series called Over the Garden Wall, and One Dark Window gave me such Over the Garden Wall like vibes. Basically, in this world, yeah, there's like this plague or like this sickness that if you catch it, you get like you gain a power, but the kingdom doesn't like people with powers. So this girl, she tried to hide her powers, and her power is basically like absorbing the power of these magic cards. Because even though the power is like pretty like not accepted in the kingdom, there are these powerful cards, and so these different cards are like imagine like tarot cards. That's what I was like picturing in my head, but like tarot cards of like different, and each tarot card had like different powers, and these cards are the only way to get power other than getting sick, but the kingdom kills the people that are sick, you know what I mean? So the only like true power is being like elite enough to be able to buy these cards and take this power. But they go in order of like being like very common to very not common. So like there's only one card of this one suit basically, but to cure the sickness of this like town, because like there's like a fog coming, which is very Over the Garden Wall, they have to find all these cards and reunite them together. That's basically what's happening. But this is the first book of a duology. The second book's coming in at the end of the year, somewhere around the end of the year. I'm really excited for it, and I loved it. Like the romance was like such a subplot that I loved it. I was like, and I love a good romance subplot. I'm not like the biggest fan of like romance up front, but I like romance at the same time. Yep, it's really good. Give it a chance, guys. Give it a chance. Next book I read was One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. I gave it 4 stars. I feel like it was a little long. Oh, one thing, it's like a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and it's like these 2 rival witch families in New York, a modern day fantasy basically, And the premise was really good, but something I don't like about, like, one thing I just hate in books, it's like my biggest ick, is when like two siblings date two other siblings. Like, that's basically your family then. At that point, like, it's gross to me. I'm like, ugh. That's my new catchphrase, ugh. That's my new thing. All Blake's writing is so good to the point, like, you feel bad for these characters, even though you hate, like, I hated this one character. I hated Roma. Every, like, annotation I wrote in, like, my notes app, I was like, ugh, Roma tomato. Like, I just didn't like him. But then you feel so bad for him at the end. You know what I mean? Like, her writing is just, like, so good at pulling your emotions. So, yeah. I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read the 4th book in the Percy Jackson series, The Battle of the Labyrinth. I think I gave this a 4 stars, yeah. I liked it. I like Rick's writing, so. And I was, like, up until that point, I was, like, really excited. And I've been, like, I was reading Percy Jackson books, like, basically once a month, like, to finish the series. But then after I read the 4th book, I was like, I really want to, like, I was itching to finish the series. So I read 2 Percy Jackson books this month. Yep, did that. Next, I read Red, White, and Royal Blue. I was, like, kind of, like, not gonna read this book because I don't know. I just didn't want to hear about politics. But I saw, like, a bunch of trailers and, like, the cast for the show, like, really, like, hyping it up. I think it's a show. I don't think it's a movie. But yeah. So I was like, oh, I gotta have to read it. And then I think that was the first book I read on my Kindle. So I really liked it. I think I gave it a 4.5 stars. Yeah, it was really good. I really liked it. I think they were so cute. And it was so funny. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be funny, but they were so witty. And I loved them all. So next I read Lady of Darkness. This is the first book of a 5-book series. It's on Kindle Unlimited. I think it's like marketed as like a romance fantasy. Let me tell you, I was bored. I think on one of my reviews and like one of my weeks of my life vlogs area, I said that 25% of this book could have been cut out and we would have had the same ending. I would have felt the same about the book. But because of that, I gave it 3.5 stars. Because I think the last 50 pages or the last 100 pages of the book really bumped it up. Because it made me want to keep reading the other books, even though I don't want to read the other books. You know what I mean? Next, I read The Last Olympian, which is the 5th book in the Percy Jackson series. It's the ending of the first Percy Jackson. Like, I think it's like the main Percy Jackson story. I liked it. I think it was a good ending, and I was expecting more I don't know, maybe I wasn't really expecting more of like a fight scene, because it is like a middle-aged like story. It's not even young adult at that point, but I liked it. I like how the story fleshed out. It was a nice time. 4.5 stars. Next, I read A Reaper at the Gates. This is the 3rd book in An Ember in the Ashes series. I loved it. Okay, I touched on this briefly in a different video, but I loved, after the 2nd book, I wasn't the biggest fan of Helen or the Blood Strike, but she really came around to me in this book. I think the author, like, maybe it was like some years gap in between the 2nd book, but I felt like the writing was way more fleshed out, especially for Lila and Helen's characters. And I felt like I could like really reach into their mind and like understand where they're coming from. And there was a subplot of romance for Helen, and I loved it. I ate that up. So I loved it so much. And then we get a plot twist. It's insane. But I really liked it. I think I gave this one a 4.5. Yeah, I gave this one a 4.5. Because it picks off after the 2nd book, duh. And there was this plot of the 2nd book where Lila gets betrayed, basically. And so that it like leads into how she feels about the betrayal after this. So that was really good on Lila's POV. And it talks about like the politics of like literally trying to like get the empire back to its like original state. Not the original, a better state of it where it was. And yeah, this was crazy. Next, I read Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. This is the 4th Anna Huang book I've read, but this is the 2nd book out of the Twisted series that I've read. I read Twisted Love, the first one, and then I skipped the other 2 and went straight to this one. I gave this a 3.25 stars. I like was interested in the plot basically, and then because I really liked Stella in the beginning, and then like in the middle of the book, I was like, it felt like Stella and Christian both didn't have any like personality, and it was like a little removed for the story. But I kept reading, And like, and maybe it's me, but maybe the third act breakup of this book, I was like, it wasn't as drastic as other third act breakups of Anna Huang's books. So I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I get where she's coming from, and I get the plot and like why they broke up, but I was like, okay, whatever. And I think like one of the bits, because it was like a stalker story, I was like, I didn't need to read that. And like sometimes it just felt like, oh, the stalker like reveal was like actually so bad too. I was like, who the hell is this guy? It would have been nice if they like intertwined it in since the beginning. But yeah, that's whatever. That's how I felt. 3.25 stars. Next, I read, A Scotty on the Storm. This is the last book in the Number in the Ashes series. This is the 4th book. A masterpiece. A masterpiece. So good. I cried the last 70 pages and I just wouldn't stop crying. Like, I sobbed. And I think you guys know why. I like could cry thinking about it. Helen deserves so much better. Helen deserves so much better. Okay, yeah, that's all that. That's all I can say about that, because they wrapped up the story really good. Last book I read this month, I just finished it literally like 30 minutes ago. I started Hello Stranger by Catherine Senner. I think this book just came out, and I think it was like the book of the month book. And I know like a lot of people love her like first book that she wrote, The Bodyguard or something like that. I've never read it. Now I want to, because I saw that Haley fam rated this 5 stars on Goodreads, and I like trust Haley with my life for some reason. So I like downloaded it on Kindle, and I like, it was so good. Like, it was like the writing was so good. It was just like so like page turning to me. I wasn't bored. I didn't feel like I had to take breaks in between the chapters to like literally just be distracted on my phone. But the plot was so good. But it was also not like romance. It was like a romance book with a subplot of romance. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like fully focused on the romance, and I didn't feel like it was like pushing romance down my throat. But the romance was good in this book. And like the ending where like plot twist and like it really wraps everything up, I thought the ending was perfect. I thought like the wrapping it up, and like especially after the 75%, like, oh my god, like, oh, this is why, like, this is like the downfall of like the book sometimes. But like Miss Center, she wrapped it up so well, and it was like, so it was like, oh my god, like, you know, like when like light bulbs happen, that's what happened when I was reading the end of the book, and I was like, I love it so much. But the premise is, but Sadie, she has an accident and she has to go to the hospital, and though they have to do brain surgery, something happens and she like wakes up and she can't recognize faces, so she has face blindness, like, and she's a portrait artist, so she's like the finalist of a portrait artist, like a portrait art like contest, so that's bad. I think the family, like, I think it was like the right amount of family drama in the book, and like that does resolve some of it, but like some of it's like, oh my god, there's a gecko or a lizard, that's crazy. But yeah, I think, I don't know, it was just like, it was not too emotionally deep, but emotionally deep at the same time, where I was like, this is like the right amount that I love. I loved it. That's all I can say. 4.5 stars. A really good reading month at that. But now it's time to get into my, hopefully, TBR for the month of August. Yeah. Some of the books I want to read this month, in no particular order, I want to read Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. This is the 2nd book of the Red Rising, like, first trilogy. I'm excited to read it. Next, I want to read Gallant by V.E. Schwab. A lot of people said they were, like, kind of disappointed by this book, but I like V.E. Schwab's writing. Next, I want to read Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare, and I want to read this because everyone says this is their favorite trilogy out of the Shadowhunter worlds. And, like, I know the Shadowhunter world, so, like, it's not going to be hard to, like, understand it, you know what I mean? So it's like not world building for me because I've had the prior knowledge, you know what I mean? Okay, next, my mom, my brother, and my best friend have all been like, you have to read it, you gotta read it, when are you gonna read it? I'm terrified. I like, this is like it's a guttural like terrification. Next, I want to read The Kiss of Deception. I think this is the 1st book of the first trilogy by Mary E. Pearson, before Dance with Thieves and Vow of Thieves. So I want to read that. I don't really remember what happens in those books, but I remember loving them. Gave them both 5 stars. So yeah. Next I'm going to read Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. I've heard this is a good book, and I liked Fourth Wing. I gave it a 4.5. Yeah. Want to see her other writing because I'm excited for the second Fourth Wing. I want to read Credence by Penelope Douglas. This one book talker loves it. I want to know the hype. And I'm not like a dark romance girl. I think this is dark romance. It's either that or very large age gap. I also want to read Binding 13. I know Destiny Sidwell loves it. I know Sarah Crowley doesn't really like it, but I want to see what my stance on this is. I want to see if I can be a neutral party or I can obsess like one of them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm already obsessed with Magnolia Parks the same way both of them are, but mostly Sarah. But I want to see if I can like really resonate with Destiny on this book. Acting like I fucking know them. Girl, no. Okay, that's embarrassing. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my monthly wrap up in the books and my thoughts on them. I hope you guys hold me accountable for my TBR, because that's never gonna happen, but I'd love to see the support. Be like, yes, Amy, you got this, you got it. So yeah, that's all. Hope you guys have a good August, had a good July. And yeah, if you're going back to school, I pray for you too. Pray for me. Just do whatever you want. If you take one thing away, read this series, read Catherine Center's book, and read One Dark Window by Rachel Gilling. That's all. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I love you guys, and see you next time. Maybe, I hope it's probably before another monthly wrap up. That'd be sick that'd be sick in the head if I literally saw you guys next month, no updates, no nothing. Bye guys.